in Esker's Accounts Payable module. My name's Ty and I'm a Customer Success Specialist here at Fujifilm Business Innovation. In this session, we'll explore how Esker empowers finance teams with actionable insights through its built-in reporting tools, enhancing visibility, compliance and efficiency across the invoice lifecycle. So today's session is designed to give you a clear understanding of the 3 key reporting levels within the solution. So we'll first kick things off by how to access reports. We'll then demonstrate how to create 3 essential reports within the AP solution. So one at the line level, header level, and then report at the workflow level. So these sessions are designed to help users better understand how to extract, organise and analyse data effectively within Esker. So whether you're aiming to track invoice level details, monitor document summaries, or evaluate workflow efficiencies, the session will hopefully empower you to make more informed data-driven decisions using Esker's reporting capabilities. So at the end of the session, you'll see a QR code to complete a quick survey. We'd really appreciate you taking a moment to fill it out. We'll also share the link now actually in the chat, so you're welcome to complete it at any time during the session while following along. But before we jump into the solution, let me just see what I've got here on my screen. Just a quick note, so feel free to submit your questions at any time using the Q&A or chat functionality. So we'll aim to cover them at the end of today's session, but with limited time, if we're not able to address everything live, we'll follow them up via email as always. So let's just jump straight into things here. So most of you, when you log into Esker, you have your dashboards. You have a dashboard screen. So there's a few ways to access reports within Esker. So as you can see, there are a few charts on my screen here. These charts are linked to reports. So if you click on the magnifying glass icon here, it will navigate you through to that report there with the data set available. However, for today's session, like most users, we'll just navigate to the Reports tab. So before we actually kick things off and start creating our first report, as you can see here on my screen, there's a question icon. So best practice always is to utilize this functionality if you have any questions by clicking on the questions icon. It will navigate you through to the relevant Esker documentation. So we always encourage users to make use of this. So as you can see, this has gone through to the report section within Esker documentation, and it provides guidance on managing and exporting reports along with a range of other helpful resources. And what's best, it's free to utilize. So if we just come back into our solution here. So for the first report that we'll be running through today is to how to create a report at the line level. So with this report, we're aiming to look at specific line item data. So the report that we'll be looking at is how individuals how their individual entries such as GL accounts, tax codes, and cost centres are tracked and reported for detailed financial control and audit readiness. So to create a new report, you would simply click the new report button and build it from there. However, for today's session, I've already pre-created the report that is required. So we'll just walk through how it was set up. So if you click the new report button that we looked at earlier on, it should navigate you to a screen such as the one that's showing here. So step one, you want to select your data type. So this tells Esker where to pull the relevant data from. So as you can see here, as mentioned, this report will be on the line level. So for this report, we've based it on supplier invoices line items, and this is essentially where any source of the data that will be that we've got availability to report on. Cool. Simply just follow the prompts. So on this step here, the report format, so you can choose whether you want a list, grouped list, summary, or chart. So each option gives you a summary below here on how the report will be structured. So in this case, we've gone ahead and selected the grouped list. On the operations field, this basically defines operations and it calculates additional values on numeric fields or dates available in the report. For this specific demo, we won't be using this screen here, and you'll find most of the time when you build a report, you wouldn't necessarily tend to use the operations screen unless you need to be quite specific and create new calculations. So just following along there next. And here we chose at the beginning at the report format that we wanted to group our data. So this report here, we've selected to group it by GL accounts description line, supplier name, and invoice number. However, if you wanted it to just be grouped via GL account and supplier name, by all means, you can do that also. Now on this column screen here, this is basically where you select what columns you want to display on your report. And so it just based on the relevant data that you want to actually look through. So as you can see, there's a whole bunch of things that you can pull through to report on, but I've just kept things simple and realistic as to what most people do tend to select when it comes to columns for this type of reporting, such as the date, time the invoice document was submitted, supplier name, supplier number, order number, invoice amount, invoice status, and so on, as you can see. Now, through this step here, you've got the options to drill down further on your data set. So filter specifically on what you want the report to define, to drill further down to define that report. So you can click and add a new filter. So whether you want to do that on date, time, submitted, hold on, submitted, and select that, and you want to just look at today's data set rather than a complete overview. So you've got those options to filter your report down further on. I'm just going to delete that for now because I don't want that. And below here, you've got some display filters. So this basically allows you to filter the report, but not the report built on those filters. So whether you share the link to your report with someone within your team and they're looking for something specific, we'll walk through how to utilize those filters in the case of this report shortly. And then the final step in building this report here brings you through to your chart. So you can have a chart displayed. And as you can see here, you've got all these different options on how you want the chart to display there, or you can choose not to have one at all. But for this one here, we've kept it nice and simple and kept it vertical bar. Then we just finish. And as you can see here on the screen, we've got a clear chart that gives you a visual view of the data in the report. If you scroll down also, you'll see a full list of the records that sit behind the chart and a wee little summary of what the report is based on, the build. As mentioned earlier, you've got these display filters. So whether you're wanting to filter directly to just bring up data set for a certain supplier. So as you can see here, sorry, I need to have a look at this because I've made all of this up. So I need to look at what supplier I want, Adicom. So if I just want to see the results for Adicom, I'd simply use that filter, apply it, and then it will just bring up anything relating to that supplier there for you. Now with all reports, you'll just go ahead and you save the report as needed, name it to something that's conventional. You can choose whether or not you want the report to be private. You know, most cases CFOs that do have access to Esker for what reason they choose to have it private, or you can have it public, meaning that you can share the link and it'll be visible to those in your team that have the relevant permissions. Cool. Now, that's it there for the line level reporting. So let me just jump out of there. So as a quick reminder before we jump into the next report, the Q&A section is open. So if there are any questions about the line item report we've just walked through, or if you need any assistance, if you've got like a line level report that you're trying to build at the moment, you found this helpful, but you want you know, to customize it a little bit and you're struggling, feel free to also just pop that into the chat. And as mentioned, if we're unable to cover everything due to time constraints, I'll follow them up with you via email. So next report we're just going to jump into here is the one that I've already pre-created. This one here is at the header level. Cool. So just to quickly clarify before we build this report, because I often do get asked this, is that, you know, what do you mean by header level? So if I just quickly jump screens and open up a dummy invoice that I've got here. So above here is what we refer to as your header level data. So if you're wanting to build your header level reporting, the only data information that will pull through is anything that is available to you at the header level. So this is what basically you can build your report off on. So if we just jump back into a screen that we were in. Cool. So the report we've created here and that we'll walk through here includes a high level information such as invoice totals, supplier details and invoice status, which is useful for overall analysis or reconciliation. Again, this is just a very simplified version of header level reporting. So the idea is to give you the tools on to how to build these reports, and then you can further refine them to suit your business needs. So as we can see, we've selected our what we would like to report on. Just go next here. again, we've opted to select to go by grouped list. And on the screen here, we have just utilized a few of the operations. So we'll just refined it to, on the amount that is visible on the report that we pull through, we want it to be the sum amount. But if you wanted to, you can select average and so on, but we kept it quite simple. And as you can see here, I've also added a few custom calculations that I wanted to pull through. Next. So on this report, we've grouped it via company code, invoice status, and we've opted just to report and group on these two values here, although you've got the option to group it via 3 different grouping data. Like the line level report that we just ran through, you've got the options again to select what columns that will show and that are available that you want to show through on your report. And again, you've got the filters here, so you'll just follow the prompts where needed. For this report, we've opted to have no chart, but by all means, if you wanted to, we can have a chart. Actually, I will select a vertical bar group chart just for the sake of it, and you can add in a title and just work through these options here, but they're not mandatory. Cool. So like the other report, it gives you the chart visual and then just the data set listed here that's behind the visual that you've got on the chart. And that brings us to that the end of the header level reporting there. So the last and final report we'll examine is the workflow level reporting. So this provides visibility into approval chains, reviewer actions and process durations. So it enables you to identify bottlenecks and drive continuous process improvement, but also just shows you what actions the approver has actually taken. And a lot of our customers do find this one here quite useful. So if we just jump into how we built this report. So as we can see, I've named it actions taken by approval. And because the actions on the invoice, let me just jump into a invoice again, is all shown here down below on the workflow. This is where any data that we report on this report will pull from. So because we've based it on the workflow level, if for whatever reason you wanted to pull anything from the line item level, it will not pull through because of the data set that we've selected to, we've chosen to build this report on. So just jumping back into the screen here. So as we can see, supplier invoices and workflow. By all means, as mentioned earlier on, this reporting session is based on your AP workspace. However, if you've got multiple different workspaces available with, for your organisation, and such as procurement, and you wanted to look at the actions that were taken on the procurement side of things, such as PR requisition, you'd just follow the prompts to what workflow that would be that you're wanting to report on for that module. So as you can see here, we've got the PR workflow option available. But again, for this one here, keeping it simple, supplier invoices workflow is what we've opted to go through for this. Again, we've selected to go with the grouped list. Often it just is a better visual for all when they've got that chart to, have a quick overview on, but also the list of the data set to refer back to. Others, aren't, prefer not to have the chart or not to have it grouped, and by all means, again, you've got the flexibility on how you would like your report format to build on. Again, we're just going to bypass this one here, operations, and what we've grouped this by is that I've grouped it by actual approver. So what this is going to do is, say for instance, you've got approver Mary, approver Carl, and approver Debbie. It will group all of which that person has actioned to make it easier to digest that data set. Next. Kept it very simple here in terms of the columns that I want to, to display on the list that will come later on the final report. But again, you can define that further where need be. And as shown previously, you've got the actions to add filters where you'd like, but we're just going to quickly finish off here and jump in. So as you can see, I've grouped it by John. John's my AP specialist. You can see what workflow action John's taken on this on the invoice here. So, and at what date he completed that action. Perfect. So now that wraps up today's demo on the line level, header level and workflow level reporting. So I hope you found that helpful. What we'll do now is we will move on to any questions you may have.
Yep. Hi, Ty. So yes, we do have two questions that are quite related to each other. First one is, are the fields or report generation accessible across all account types or permissions?
So yes and no. So the fields, let me just actually have a quick look at that question actually, so I can ensure that I address all of that for you. So the fields are available in most cases to all account types and permissions. However, when they build that report based on those fields and based on their permissions that they have, may not necessarily bring any data through on those fields. So say for instance, they don't have permission to a certain supplier, they can build the report around that, but that won't pull through that. The line level data or the data set for that supplier won't pull through for that user based on their permission. However, if they save that report as a public version and then they share that link, that report link with, say, someone that's light admin that has a higher level of permission sets, that person will see that data pull through on that report, although the original user that created the report has no visibility over it. Was that the question? Two parts.
Yep.
Access
And
for
then the
cross-border.
second
Yep.
one, Ty, can you grant access to individuals outside of your department? For example, a leadership member may want to view a report on a specific detail.
Yep, great question. So there's two options here. The first option I would actually recommend, especially at a because you've said leadership. So a lot of times CFOs, for instance, they don't actually use Esker. It's more so for the AP users, etc. But they still want a high level report. The first option you can do is actually utilize the schedule report functionality. What that does is that so you can set the report to send through to that CFO on either a daily, weekly, or monthly basis, and it simply extracts that report and it emails it directly through to that user rather than them having to log into the solution. So that's one option. And the user doesn't actually need to be an Esker user as well. So say it's again using that scenario, the CFO is not actually set up with an Esker, but you want the reporting to go through to them. Again, it will just email them that report directly. However, the benefits of actually accessing Esker is that you get the live data pull through to the report. So depending on what profile that you have will depend on whether or not you can extend that report permission through to another user. But again, it comes down to that user's permissions that they have set against their profile. We don't come across that quite often, but by all means, as I had shown through, there are steps on how you can set that up via Esker documentation. So I would say first, refer to that. But by all means, if you need to, reach out to us and we can help guide you further on how to do that on your end. Just looking at the time here. Any other questions there, Joe?
Yep, we have one. Again, can you suggest a report that we can use to track ERP integration errors as a percentage on a monthly basis?
Cool. Great question. Um, for that one there, I'm just going to quickly pull up my solution here. And again, we would navigate to, so within the first part is within Esker, there are already built-in reports that you receive with your solution. However, when it comes to specific reporting, such as the one that you would like, I would again just navigate, you would have to build the report from scratch. And clicking through that new report functionality will bring you through, if my accountant wants to keep up with me here, gives you the options on where you would create your, sorry, I'm thinking of my English here, base your report on. So I can reach out to you directly via email and just send you through the steps. But by all means, if that information is ingested into Esker, you can report on that there. And yeah, as I mentioned, this is quite user friendly, so you just follow the prompts on new reporting. But because that one is quite specific, I'll reach out to you and just send you through the steps on how to build that. But there's not an already built one within Esker.
Yep. So, Ty, I think we still have time. There's another question. Could we build a report that allows cost center managers to see whether invoices related to their cost centers status? So some invoices are PO-based invoices and therefore do not go through the approval workflow. So the report should include those invoices as well.
Yeah. So great question. So yes, you can build a report based on that. And again, it would depend on where you're wanting the data to pull through from and whether your environment, depending on what customizations you have in place, allows it. So for instance, if the cost center data is at the header level, you would simply follow the header level uh, sections that we ran through today. And instead of grouping it by GL account, you'd get down, you'll just define it via the cost center, and then you can define it further onto specific users, and then you can use the filters based on that reporting to just, if you don't want to look at anyone else's but just yours, you'd filter it based on that as well. But again, if this is something specific that you want in place or you've already had a play around with and you're just struggling to set that up on your end, I will reach out to you via email and just help guide you on that report. But yes, it's quite simple. You'll simply follow the PO header level, invoice report that we went through today. However, if your cost center data information that you're wanting to report on is at that line level, you'd do the same, but you'll follow at the line level section, and then you can follow the prompts from there. Oh, any other questions there, Joe?
Yep, last one. When using the scheduler, I have not been able to send reports to a user who is not set up in Esker. Could you please confirm whether that is expected behavior?
Cool. Again, it's very custom to all different customers' environments. So standard, so yes, you can schedule a report to a user that's not within Esker. However, it also depends on how your environment has been set up. So when you sign up with us here at Fujifilm, you would have gone through your project stage, and at the project stage, you would have gone through a list of requirements and permissions that you would like to allow certain profile users, and based on those permissions for the profile and whether there's permission that's been allowed to you is perhaps where you're having that difficulty. Again, I'm happy to review your environment for you and have a look at that should you need to enable that capability there. Now, I see here that we've reached time, so we'll wrap it up now. Thank you all for the questions. As mentioned, for those that we haven't been able to address, I will reach out to you via email. And for those of you that did ask questions, I will still reach out to you via email there with, so we can discuss further your requirements and we can go from there. However, we'll please, as a reminder, please scan the QR code and complete the survey. So by doing so, you'll go into the draw to win a blunt umbrella. On that note, I do just want to say a huge congratulations to last month's winner, John Heat at Arvida. Apologies, John. I do have the umbrella ready for you. I'll get that out the door for you today, especially with the weather that we're experiencing. But again, thanks everyone for your time and joining us today in today's Know How at Noon session.